The morning of February 25th, 1945, dawned cold and misty over Beaumont, Texas, as the B-24 Liberator rumbled down the foggy runway. Inside, 20-year-old Second Lieutenant Frank Johnstone tightened his grip on the navigational charts, his breath visible in the cabin's chill. Each exhale a reminder of the fragile boundary between life and death. Each crew member carried the weight of fear and hope, memories of friends already lost, letters never sent home, and the relentless anticipation of one final mission before the war ended. Engines roared, shaking the fuselage as the plane ascended into the gray morning sky, the Alps waiting miles away like jagged teeth in the clouds. The mission was to disrupt enemy supply lines in Austria, each moment filled with the knowledge that one miscalculation could end everything. As they approached Linz, flak cut through the clouds, explosions rattling the aircraft like a thunderstorm of metal. Frank scanned the instruments, his eyes darting between gauges and horizon, calculating evasive maneuvers while shouting instructions over the deafening roar. 9 of the 12 crew members leapt from the plane, parachutes unfurling against the gray sky, leaving only Frank and 2 others to wrestle with the failing aircraft. Moments stretched into eternities as the Alpine peaks loomed closer, ice and rock converging like the jaws of fate. The crash was brutal, metal twisting, explosions echoing across the mountains, leaving only silence and scattered wreckage amid snow and jagged cliffs. Decades passed, history recording the crew as missing, letters unsent, stories untold, with only faint whispers in archives hinting at what had occurred. High above in the Alps, the mountains held their secrets, preserving the wreckage and the remains in icy stasis, time itself frozen around the tragedy. Years turned into decades until 2025, when a team of archaeologists and forensic experts returned to the mountains armed with modern technology. Sonar mapping, ground-penetrating radar, and painstaking analysis revealed shapes beneath the ice, shadows of what had been lost. A trek across treacherous slopes brought them to the shattered fuselage, twisted metal glinting in the weak sunlight. The remains of Frank Johnstone were found, finally identified after 80 years, bringing closure to a story suspended in time and silence. The recovered aircraft was a frozen monument, each panel, each rivet, each fragment a testament to the past. The identification of Johnstone's remains allowed families to reclaim a piece of their history, honoring his bravery and sacrifice. His story became a window into the realities of World War II, the perils faced by young men in the sky, and the relentless grip of time that had held his fate in the Alps. The mountains had guarded their secret faithfully, ice preserving every detail, until the convergence of human persistence and technology allowed it to emerge once more. Other discoveries mirrored this pattern, the frozen landscapes of the Arctic revealing the aircraft of Soviet pilot Boris Alexandrovich Lazarev, missing since 1949, entombed in ice for more than 50 years. Climate shifts and meticulous research uncovered the wreckage, allowing forensic teams to identify Boris, restoring a life story lost to time. The recovery emphasized the interplay of environment and history, how ice, wind, and snow could both conceal and preserve, leaving the past suspended yet recoverable with patience and skill. Meanwhile, tales of other missing aircraft, from the private jet lost over Lake Champlain in 1971 to countless wartime bombers, illustrated how decades could blur the line between legend and reality. Melancholy, hope, desperation, curiosity, all intertwined in each mission that ended in disappearance. Even urban legends like Pan Am Flight 914 and Santiago Flight 513, though largely myth, echoed humanity's fascination with disappearance, vanishing, and miraculous reemergence. These stories, while fantastical, highlighted the enduring intrigue surrounding aviation mysteries and the emotional pull of unresolved narratives. The search for Amelia Earhart, still ongoing, reflected the same blend of human courage, loss, determination, and mystery. As each expedition combed the South Pacific, sonar scans revealed potential debris fields, while historical records and eyewitness accounts were cross-referenced to narrow possible sites. Every lead was scrutinized, each anomaly tested and analyzed, each discovery a piece of a decades-long puzzle that spanned oceans, climates, and generations. The fascination with Earhart's disappearance underscored the universal desire to reclaim what time and nature had hidden, to piece together lives interrupted mid-journey. Memories suspended between hope and oblivion. Beyond individual stories, these recoveries illuminate broader truths about the human experience in war and exploration. The young men in B-24's Spitfires and other aircraft faced unimaginable dangers, from mechanical failure to enemy fire to extreme weather conditions. Their missions demanded skill, courage, calculated risk, and the acceptance of mortality. Their stories preserved in letters, logbooks, dog tags, And personal effects connect us to a lived reality often reduced to abstract statistics, restoring individuality, personhood, and narrative to events long past. Even decades later, the impact reverberates through families, communities, and history itself. Reunions with lost relatives, memorial ceremonies, archival preservation, public acknowledgement. Each act restores dignity and recognition to those who perished in service. Every recovered plane, each artifact, each human remain provides not only historical clarity but also emotional closure, transforming loss into remembrance and silence into story. The weight of generations carried by these recoveries is immense, a testament to the enduring value of honoring the dead and understanding the full scope of their lives, actions, decisions, hopes, failures, and sacrifices. Across the Alpine and Arctic recoveries combined with discoveries in oceans, lakes, and forests create a tapestry of human courage and endurance intertwined with nature's power and the passage of time. The stories of Frank Johnstone, Boris Lazarev, Amelia Earhart, and countless others reveal patterns of bravery, loss, persistence, and revelation. The threads connecting these events form a narrative arc across decades and continents, illuminating not only the past but also the qualities of resilience, tenacity, curiosity, and memory that define the human spirit. The meticulous work of archaeologists, forensic experts, climate scientists, archivists, and historians demonstrates how the intersection of skill, patience, technology, and intuition can resurrect history from oblivion. Through DNA testing, stable isotope analysis, archival cross-referencing, and careful excavation, identities long forgotten are restored. Missions once unresolved are clarified. Legends are separated from fact. And stories of courage are validated and preserved. The discoveries deepen understanding of historical contexts, enhance knowledge of environmental preservation, mechanical engineering, aviation performance, and human resilience, allowing us to learn not just about events but about the qualities and decisions that shaped them. The recovered artifacts, the planes, letters, dog tags, journals, flight logs, personal belongings, serve as tangible connections to those who lived and died in the mid-20th century. They embody courage, decision-making under duress, hope, despair, and sacrifice. They are reminders that behind every statistic, every mission, every reported loss, there is a human life, an untold story, a narrative of extraordinary circumstances and ordinary humanity. Each artifact allows historians and descendants to reconstruct a life, illuminate a mission, and restore narrative to individuals once reduced to nameless numbers in military archives. In the broader context, these recoveries and discoveries reveal lessons that transcend history. They illustrate how human determination can reclaim lost knowledge, how technology can bridge decades of silence, how patience and skill can transform absence into presence. They show that even in extreme environments, glaciers, alpine cliffs, Arctic tundras, deep lakes, the past can be preserved, awaiting discovery. They emphasize the moral imperative of remembering the dead, honoring sacrifice, and learning from history to inform present and future generations. Across time and space, these stories converge to form a complex mosaic of human experience, bravery, and endurance. Each recovered pilot, each lost aircraft, each artifact is a node in a network that connects generations, geographies, and human endeavors. They speak of the universality of courage, the inevitability of loss, the necessity of remembrance, and the enduring human desire to understand, clarify, validate, and honor the past. These narratives transform cold facts into living history, and frozen wrecks into vessels of meaning, emotion, and education. The decades following the discovery of Frank Johnstone's remains in the Alps opened a new chapter in the chronicles of lost aviation and forgotten histories. Historians, archaeologists, and explorers turned their gaze to forgotten crash sites across the globe, each site holding the promise of answers, long-lost stories, and closure for families who had endured generations of uncertainty. In Greenland, an American B-17 bomber, lost during a reconnaissance mission in 1943, emerged from melting ice fields after more than 70 years. The aircraft, once a sleek instrument of war, was now a jagged relic, its aluminum fuselage corroded but intact, enabling researchers to reconstruct the flight path, mission objectives, and the desperate maneuvers undertaken by its crew. The skeletal remains of 3 airmen were recovered alongside personal effects, dog tags, letters, photographs, each item a frozen echo of lives interrupted. Ordinary men transformed into symbols of courage and sacrifice by circumstance and history. Families received answers they had long awaited, stories of bravery and final moments carefully pieced together from fragments of metal, ice, archival records, and human memory. Similarly, in the dense forests of Pennsylvania, the remains of a P-38 Lightning fighter, missing since 1944, were discovered after decades of careful exploration. A single pilot had been aboard, his identity confirmed through meticulous forensic analysis, restoring a narrative that had been suspended in time. The surrounding wreckage revealed insights into the aircraft's mechanical failures, combat maneuvers, weather conditions, and the human decisions made in the split seconds before disaster struck. These discoveries were more than historical curiosity. They were reconnections between past and present, between those who had sacrificed and the descendants who carried their memories. In the Pacific Theater, the relentless search for lost aircraft extended to islands long forgotten by maps and the public consciousness. American, Japanese, and Allied aircraft crashed in remote jungles, coral atolls, and volcanic landscapes, leaving scattered remnants of metal, canvas, wood, and human lives. The tropical climate both preserved and destroyed, creating challenges for recovery and analysis. Using modern satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, sonar scans, and collaborative archival research, explorers located previously undiscovered wrecks, allowing forensic teams to confirm identities and reconstruct missions. Decades of mystery were resolved. Letters and photographs reunited with families, oral histories corroborated, missions clarified. Human ingenuity, scientific precision, and dogged determination converged to bridge decades of uncertainty, revealing both the fragility and resilience of life in extreme circumstances. The recovered artifacts, the twisted fuselages, uniform fragments, personal journals, flight instruments, offered tangible connections to historical reality, creating a narrative both educational and profoundly human. The pattern of discovery extended beyond military aviation to civilian flights as well. Historic commercial aircraft, private planes, even mail carriers vanished in storms, mountains, lakes, and oceans. Each case carried its own story, its own cast of characters, and its own lesson in human perseverance and vulnerability. One notable instance involved a Cessna 310, missing in the Rockies since 1969, its disappearance shrouded in mystery and speculation. Mountaineers and search teams combed the terrain for years, often thwarted by avalanches, weather, or inaccessibility. Finally, decades later, the wreckage was located, remains identified, personal effects cataloged, letters returned to families. The narratives of these civilians mirrored those of military personnel, underscoring the universality of human courage, fear, loss, and the longing for closure. Aircraft, regardless of purpose, become vessels of memory, markers of human endeavor, reminders of both fragility and determination. These discoveries also highlighted the intersection of nature and history. The environment through glaciers, volcanic activity, ocean currents, and dense vegetation played a dual role, concealing evidence for decades while simultaneously preserving it in ways impossible within conventional archives. Organic materials, letters, photographs, leather flight jackets, canvas parachutes, often survived in cold or dry climates, while metal fragments and instrumentation survived corrosion in certain soil conditions. Scientific techniques such as DNA testing, carbon dating, stable isotope analysis, and forensic anthropology allowed experts to identify individuals with unprecedented accuracy, reconstruct events, verify timelines, and corroborate archival records. This interplay between environmental preservation and modern science transformed lost histories into living narratives, accessible, analyzable, and emotionally resonant. The human dimension remained central to each story. The pilots, the crew, the passengers, ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, left behind fragments of life that spoke across generations. Every artifact, from a dog tag to a handwritten letter, embodied choices, fear, hope, and courage. The recovery of these artifacts allowed historians and descendants to restore individuality to those once reduced to statistics or nameless casualties. Families experienced closure, communities engaged in commemoration, oral histories were validated, and public memory expanded, creating a tapestry of connections spanning decades and continents. The narratives transformed loss into remembrance, silence into story, absence into presence, and obscurity into historical illumination. Globally, these narratives intersected in unexpected ways. The discovery of frozen aircraft in the Alps mirrored recoveries in Greenland, Alaska, the Pacific, and remote American forests. They revealed recurring themes of bravery, decision-making under duress, environmental challenge, survival instinct, and human ingenuity. They also highlighted the passage of time as both an obstacle and an ally, preserving evidence while deepening mystery. Each recovery contributed to a broader understanding of the era, technological capabilities, mission logistics, combat strategies, and human behavior under extreme stress. These discoveries, taken together, formed a mosaic of human experience, illustrating how courage, perseverance, loss, curiosity, and the quest for knowledge transcended borders, generations, and decades. Even stories once dismissed as legend were reconsidered in light of new discoveries. Myths of lost flights, miraculous survivals, disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, or planes emerging decades later became opportunities for investigation, analysis, and differentiation between fact and folklore. Researchers compared archival records, meteorological data, flight logs, communications, eyewitness testimonies, and environmental studies to separate plausible events from mythic embellishment. Every recovered plane or human remain reinforced the importance of evidence-based reconstruction while demonstrating the human tendency to attach narrative, meaning, and emotion to unresolved events. These intersections of myth, history, and discovery created layered narratives that captivated imaginations and preserved historical integrity. The psychological dimension of these recoveries cannot be overstated. The pilots faced fear beyond imagination, mechanical uncertainty, enemy fire, extreme weather, and the relentless awareness of mortality. Their decision-making, creativity, adaptability, and courage were tested in moments where seconds determined life or death. The recovered aircraft, personal effects, and letters provided tangible insights into these mental landscapes, allowing historians and psychologists to reconstruct the human experience under duress. These stories offered lessons in resilience, calculated risk, strategic thinking, teamwork, and the enduring capacity of humans to act decisively in extreme circumstances. The narratives humanized history, revealing lived experience behind events often reduced to dates, locations, and casualty figures. Further, these recoveries had lasting societal impact. American and international families regained closure, fostering intergenerational understanding and commemoration. Memorials, documentaries, articles, museum exhibits, archival databases, and academic studies disseminated findings, ensuring that lessons, memories, and human stories were preserved for future generations. These narratives bridged the past and present, reconnecting humanity with histories that had been dormant for decades. The recovered pilots and crew became more than historical figures. They became symbols of courage, curiosity, loss, and the relentless pursuit of answers, reminding us of the enduring human desire to resolve uncertainty and honor sacrifice. From the Alps to the Arctic, from Pacific atolls to American lakes and forests, each story shared threads of human courage, environmental challenge, historical preservation, and technological ingenuity. Decades of mystery were illuminated by patient research, scientific precision, and a commitment to understanding the past. These discoveries reminded humanity that the past is never truly lost, that evidence endures when preserved by environment and curiosity, and that determination, skill, science, and empathy can resurrect stories long thought gone. They underscored the fragile balance between human endeavor and the forces of nature, and how perseverance, innovation, and meticulous research can bridge decades, turning absence into presence, loss into knowledge, and tragedy into remembrance. Each recovered artifact, each identified pilot, each rediscovered aircraft contributed to a collective historical consciousness. A life interrupted became a narrative restored. A mission forgotten became a story of bravery and resilience. An artifact emerged from ice, forest, or water, transforming silence into narrative and mystery into evidence. Historians could reconstruct entire missions, archaeologists could understand environmental preservation, forensic experts could validate identities, and families could reclaim connections long lost. The convergence of human determination, nature, technology, and time created a web of discovery, linking continents, decades, and human lives in an enduring narrative tapestry. Across continents, explorers discovered additional long-lost aircraft and remains in the most extreme environments. In Alaska, WWII bombers were recovered from icy fjords, crew members identified through dog tags, letters, and DNA analysis. In Australia, missing planes from the Pacific campaigns were located in dense jungle, personal belongings preserved in humid conditions that paradoxically both decayed and protected them. In South America, planes lost in the Andes were recovered decades later. Wreckage preserved by cold mountain winds, allowing researchers to reconstruct crash circumstances and identify crew members. The scale of discovery highlighted the global nature of aviation history and the universality of human courage, loss, and the pursuit of closure. The stories of Amelia Earhart, Frank Johnstone, Boris Lazarev, and countless unnamed civilians and military personnel coalesced into a pattern of human endurance, curiosity, innovation, and remembrance. The recovered artifacts, the twisted fuselages, letters, dog tags, photographs, journals, personal belongings, served as portals to the past, transforming abstract history into lived experience. Through meticulous reconstruction, forensic analysis, archival cross-referencing, and environmental study, decades-long mysteries were solved. Missions were clarified, lives were honored, and history itself was preserved. These narratives transcended individual events, revealing larger truths about courage, vulnerability, environmental interaction, and the enduring human desire to understand, restore, and remember. The decades-long search and recovery efforts demonstrated humanity's relentless pursuit of answers, memory, and justice. Time, climate, geography, and human determination intertwined, revealing stories that might otherwise have remained lost forever. Each discovery provided insight into historical context, human behavior under extreme stress, aviation technology, environmental preservation, and forensic science. The recovered pilots and crew members, once names on lists of the missing, were restored to narrative, history, identity, and memory. The artifacts, once forgotten relics, became vessels of knowledge, emotion, connection, and education, ensuring that the past continued to inform the present and future generations.